See, for the longest time, I just kind of attributed it to the fact that they might just have bad equipment.
Oh yeah, that's
because it's
canonically
mass-produced rifles. So who says how accurate the sights are?
Yeah, they've since gone back and canonically said that, and also like a lot of the Force users are unconsciously manipulating things. Like a lot of the newer Star Wars stuff make a point of like showing things that don't involve Jedi, and like when there's not a Jedi around of some sort, like suddenly those TIE fighters and those stormtroopers and those Imperials are a lot more frightening. The moment that like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader shows up, all of a sudden they are a friggin' one-man army compared to all of these badass normals running around.
Did you ever play the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games?
Oh, absolutely. I loved them. I was terrible at them, but loved them.
When you play TIE Fighter, I don't remember if it really brought it up in game, but I know it was in the manual. How they talked about this whole idea that the Empire can get away without shields on their, man-to-man fighters because they just have so much better skill in the piloting section, which was, everybody read that and kind of went, oh, they cheap out because they mass-produce the things and, they can afford to lose many, many ships blowing up one X-Wing. And it was just the whole, they purposely produced their fighter craft without shields because it's cheaper.
And like, that's actually something that's come back up in canon. Since Disney bought Star Wars, they made a point of reintroducing Grand Admiral Thrawn, and the fandom rejoiced. But like a plot point in some of the Thrawn books, and in some of the other books as well, and even in Rebels, there are definitely people within the Empire who look at the Death Star and go, "Is that the best use of our money? Really? They only have to get lucky once, and then suddenly that big thing that we've sunk like the economies of entire planets in is gone." So like, one of the things Thrawn tries to do in Rebels in particular, he sets up a factory which brings the TIE Defender back into canon. For those of you who are not familiar with Star Wars, the TIE Defender is like the most badass starfighter in the franchise.
But then we have the TIE Avenger, or whatever the thing's called. Best TIE fighter, at least in the TIE fighter game, comes with shields, multiple weapons, bloody expensive to produce, I imagine.
Yeah, the TIE Defender is basically that on steroids. So like Thrawn is making a point of trying to get the Empire to like, if you make better fighters, you'll have a more flexible military as opposed to this big ass battleship that blows things up, and your pilots will live longer. But like several people within the Empire are like, blue skin guy don't know what he talking about. He blue.
Yeah, well,
And they would listen to Jar Jar Binks.
I think that was because a Sith was manipulating the crowd myself, but
I haven't finished watching the Clone Wars series because I'm watching shit in weird order, but there have been a couple episodes where Jar Jar saves the day, and like I'll be watching Clone Wars, and like it's like, yeah, Jar Jar is stupid. He's very much inspired by Goofy, but like in the Clone Wars show at least, I'm like, I'm more invested in what happens to Jar Jar here than I am in like Anakin or Padme. And like I have that thought, and I'm like, this is kind of a terrible place to be. Really, it's not, and it's not even because the show is bad necessarily. The episodes with focusing on Anakin aren't necessarily great, and part of the problem is like with Clone Wars anyway. It's like, yeah, I kind of know what happens to like Count Dooku and General Grievous and Anakin and Padme. Any sense of like danger or suspense is just not there because they're gonna survive till the next fucking movie. You can't change too much with them because it's a movie, you know? Whereas like characters like the random ass clones, I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen to them? I'm all about this. This is amazing. They're having character arcs and things.
Yeah, when you know the end point, you kind of lose any sense of danger for a
And like
character.
I know part of it is it's not the journey, it's the destination, but for the way
I think you got that phrase backwards.
It's not the destination, it's the journey, but like
He is sick after all.
with Clone Wars, like just because of the characterization of Anakin and Padme and some of the other main characters, it's just like, okay, you guys are obnoxious, let's watch somebody else now. In contrast, like Kenobi. Like, I know a lot of people in the fandom didn't like Kenobi. They're like, it messes with my continuity, and it has its issues. I was all about Kenobi, like just seeing the dynamic between Kenobi and Vader in one of their last encounters, seeing Obi-Wan dealing with what is clearly PTSD, and just all of that. Like, I was like, this is interesting to me.
Then we get to Solo.
Which didn't need to exist.
Solo wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It just kind of was there. It has all of the elements for things for me to like it. I love heist movies, I love criminal type things, I love Wild West aesthetic. But Solo was attempting to answer a whole bunch of questions that nobody asked. Like Han meeting Chewie. Okay, that's fine, but like I didn't also need to see how Han met Lando. I didn't need to see him go from like meeting Lando to winning the Millennium Falcon like an hour and a half later. I didn't need to see the Kessel Run. I would have been perfectly content with like, okay, Han and Chewie meet up, they go on adventures, tease, like he could meet Lando too, because Lando was amazing in that movie, but like tease his interest in the Millennium Falcon. Also, we didn't need to see Darth Maul show up because like I saw that and my reaction to that was, so what? It doesn't really change anything in the greater setting. Like, Darth Maul existed during this time. He somehow survived. So what? He doesn't have that much of an impact on the main story that comes later. He did not need to be here.
Ah, where did you go? I hate this boss.
You know, I know people had problems with a few things in the new trilogy of movies.
Mhm.
But one of the things I actually appreciated was grumpy old man Skywalker.
I liked that. So did I.
I know a lot of people said, but he's so innocent and pure and blah, blah, blah. And I went, dude, he's got to be suffering like 15 kinds of PTSD from the failed Jedi Academy alone. And if you're going to complain about that, you're going to complain about a whole lot of things that were established long ago.
And like, oh, he can... Luke was clearly a bad guy because he was responsible for Kylo Ren jumping off the slippery slope, and like real Luke wouldn't have lit up a lightsaber. Okay.
You mean like he wouldn't have lit up a lightsaber that he wasn't supposed to bring into the cavern back in the original trilogy?
Exactly. Luke is a Jedi. He has accumulated some amount of wisdom in his time being a Jedi. He's also human. He went to check on his nephew because he was feeling things from there that were worrisome. And like he reached out through the Force. And in that moment, he fucked up. He made a mistake. He wouldn't actually have killed Kylo Ren. He wouldn't have killed Ben Solo. But he saw something that terrified him. And without thinking, lightsaber. And that caused a whole series of dominoes to fall over. But it was a mistake. It was tragic. It isn't, oh, Luke's evil now. He wouldn't have done that. It was, oh shit, I'm frightened, and I have fucked up, and oh shit, because of this, everything's gone wrong. Wow, the killing joke. Oh my god.
Good gun, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the one I've been waiting to get.
But yeah, like, Luke Skywalker was a Jedi. He was powerful. He was also not the brightest person. He was not the most intelligent person in the series. I'm sorry.
You hand
he just
him,
wasn't.
hand him a lightsaber. What's the first thing he does with it?
Turns it on and starts waving it around like a feather duster?
He points the business end at his face.
After watching Kenobi, because one of the big things people complain about with the continuity is like, oh, Obi-Wan meets young Leia, and if you haven't seen the series, I'm sorry I spoiled it for you. But, like after watching Kenobi, I'm like, you know, if they had just given Leia the Jedi training instead of Luke, whole Empire thing would have been solved in like 5 minutes.
Except Leia didn't have that connection to the Force.
Oh, she absolutely has. With training, she would have been just as powerful. It's just she went off with the Organas and so was raised to do something else, and Obi-Wan was right there on Tatooine. But, and like, I think Obi-Wan even says something about, like, mentions, like, she's powerful with the Force during Kenobi, but, like, if Leia had gotten the Jedi training instead, Empire gone in 5 minutes, you'd have an entirely new set of problems. But that particular problem would no longer be there.
Okay, so I'm thinking more of the books that went into detail about Leia just didn't have the same connection to the Force that Luke did.
Yeah.
Of course, that was before midichlorians became a thing.
Yeah. And in the new trilogy, they made a point of mentioning like Leia had actually gotten some Jedi training, and she could actually use the Force well. She didn't because she felt like her skills were better used in other ways, but she was strong in the Force just as Luke was. And so so they've definitely been trying to ramp up the Leia is kind of a badass thing a little bit more, which I appreciate, because in some of the works of fiction are definitely products of the time, but like Leia was even though she got a couple instances of shooting things, she was definitely like, yep, I'm the girl, I'm going to do less active things because I'm the girl. I'm gonna be the diplomat and I'm gonna govern, which is not the exciting blow things up and use the lightsabery things. Like, one of the things I appreciate in the new trilogy, which I have issues with the new trilogy for a variety of reasons, but there are bits of it that I genuinely really like. One of my favorite things is when they are referring to Leia, it's not, oh, princess. Not that there's anything wrong with being a princess. It's general.
Yep. Also, it's kind of like, are we talking about the same Leia who just literally ripped the blaster out of Solo's hands and defended them while they found a way down, while they found a way out of that hallway?
Into the garbage chute, flyboy.
Yep.
Star and I need to watch the rest of the Star Wars.
Which was very accurately parodied in Spaceballs, too.
He shot my hair!
That was good for fucking Rambo!
Yep. Oh god, I need to rewatch Spaceballs.
Yep.
And I just remember seeing that, just thinking, well, enough, they've predicted basically what Disney was going to do to Star Wars. Merchandising, merchandising, merchandising.
Well, the reason they made that joke is interesting. So when George Lucas was trying to get a studio to pick up Star Wars, like Fox ended up being the distributor or something. Like, they were like, oh, it's some crappy sci-fi movie. It's never gonna amount to anything. Sure, we'll fund your movie, whatever, but it's gonna be just like a crappy B movie, And so, like, when they were like figuring out the rights to things, like George Lucas made a point of like, okay, sure, I'll take less of like the film's net or gross or whatever, but in exchange, I get I get the sole merchandising rights. Yeah, who's gonna buy merchandise of this piece of shit picture you're making? And then Star Wars wound up being huge, as we're all aware, and so Lucas started merchandising the crap out of it, and that's where he made a shitload of money.
Yeah. To the point that's why the Ewoks were put in the first place.
Mm-hmm. When Family Guy did their Star Wars parody, I think it was in the Empire Strikes Back thing, they make a point of making fun of Fox for giving Lucas the merchandising rights. Like, in the opening crawl for Empire, they're like, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We want to talk to you shareholders about Fox for a sec. This is the company that lost out on all this merchandising money. Here, hang on, watch this. That dancing elephant just cost us $3,500 to make. Are you paying attention, shareholders?
This is not the Puffins?
Oh god, yeah, like, I was talking to somebody who had worked on that, on Last Jedi. Which is my favorite of the sequel trilogy, which means I'm about to get crucified in the comments. But yeah, the the reason for the porgs, they were shooting in, like, Iceland. And the puffins were just fucking everywhere. And they were annoying the crap out of everybody, and they weren't allowed to do anything to them because of, like, local wildlife laws. Plus, puffins are fucking adorable.
Mm-hmm.
Even though friggin' birds. So, like, the puffins are they're ruining shots, they're getting into everything, and basically their solution was to, like, digitally replace them with the porgs. The scene of Chewie eating the porg was the filmmakers rebelling about that and being like, God, we wish we could eat these fucking birds because they're fucking everywhere.